Welcome to LIVEDAF, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Brachos, Daf Chavav, who right on top of the Amud says the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Sefer Torah. If there is a Sefer Torah present in the bedroom, in a place of Tashra Shamita, in that case, it is not enough, it is not sufficient to have kiss b'seich kiss, or kli b'seich kli, a double wrapping, double encasing. Apparently the kedusha, the sanctity of the Sefer Torah shines through, it spreads beyond its coverings, it extends into the whole area. Therefore, one is required to make tzorech lasas le'mechitza asar tfachim. It is necessary to create a partition, to actually separate the Sefer Torah, a partition of 10 tfachim high and 4 tfachim wide, to create its own area, its own domain, and then it is permitted. Continues the Gemara with a story. Mazutra ikla le'bei Rav Ashi. Mazutra visited the home of Rav Ashi. Chazi leduchte. He noticed the place, the room, the bedroom of Mar bar Rav Ashi, the son of Rav Ashi. The manach bei Sefer Torah. There was a Sefer Torah present there. V'avad le'mechitza asara. And he erected a partition, asara tfachim, for it. Amar lei, so Mazutra challenged him and he said, Keman ke Rabbi Shua ben Levi? Are you following in accordance with the shita, with the view of Rabbi Shua ben Levi? That's why you arrange the bedroom in this manner? Eimud Rabbi Shua ben Levi, the lesle beis achrina. You know, when Rabbi Shua taught us this halacha, this leniency of creating a mechitza for Sefer Torah, that is only when one doesn't have a choice. He has no alternative. He has no beis achrina. In this case, bais means a room. He has no other room to place the Sefer Torah there. However, in your case, Mar ha'isle beis achrina, you have another room. So you may not rely on this halacha. Amar Leis, he responds to him, you're right, lava datoi, I didn't think about it. So in conclusion, for tefillin, it is enough to have a double encasing. For Sefer Torah, one is required to make a mechitza. That is only when he has no alternative. Lichatchila, preferably one should place the Sefer Torah in an entirely different room. Continues the Gemara. How much should a person distance himself from Meraglayim, from Tzoya? An amount of 4 amas, says the Gemara. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Zchor, Amar Rav Huna. Lo yishanu. This halacha of 4 amas is only said ela la'achirav, when the Tzoya is found behind the person. Aval lefanav, but if it's in front of him, we require much more. Marchik malay einav. He needs to distance himself malay einav, as far as the eye can see. V'chein l'tefila. The same thing applies to davening as well. He needs to distance himself from the tzoya malay einav, as far as the eye can see. What is the reason for this? Explains the Rashba, because the pasuk said v'lo yirah b'cha ervas davar. You should not be seen by you in ervas davar, and this is referring to these types of item as well. Meraglayim, tzoya, it cannot even be within eyesight. When a person sees something, he connects to it. Therefore, one must make sure that is beyond his eyesight. The place can speak out, even at night, or even a blind person has the same halacha. We measure by the distance that an average person by day would be able to see. So this is the source according to the Rashba. The Rosh holds that the source is from the pasuk of Ahayim Achanecha Kodesh. Your camp should be holy. Therefore, even if it's beyond 4 tfachim, it is still considered to be a machne that is not Kodesh. Therefore, one must distance himself Malay einav, from the tzoya, from the reaglayim. Now, what is the practical nafkamina, the practical difference between these two approaches? What would be in a case where the tzoya and reaglayim are behind the mechitza, in a different room? According to the Rosh, it is already beyond your machna. It is not in your camp. Therefore, even if you could see it, there's no problem. Your camp, your room is Kodesh. Therefore, it would be permitted. According to the Rashba, as long as it's still within Malay Einav, you can still see it, even if it's in a different room. It is still considered to be you can still see it, and therefore it's prohibited. Continues the Gemara. Ain't is that so? That if Tzoya and Meraglayim are within eyesight, it is Asr. Va'amar Rafram, Ba'papa Amar Rav Chizda, Oimid Adam Kineged Beis HaKisei Mispal. A person could stand, one could stand opposite of Beis HaKisei, as long as he's marchik, he distances himself 4 amas, and he could daven there. We're not concerned with Malay Einav, if you could still see the Beis HaKisei. Says the Gemara, Ma'askinan, we're speaking about the Beis HaKisei Shein Beit Tzoya. Beis HaKisei is free of any Tzoya, and therefore in this case it's not a problem. Says the Gemara, Eini, is that so? you're differentiating between a Beis HaKisei that contains soya at the present moment, or it was cleaned out of its soya. Va'amar Rav Yosef bar Chanina, Beis HaKisei shamru, the legal status of a Beis HaKisei, this Beis HaKisei that the Chachamim refer to regarding the prohibitions of Torah, of Tefillah, of Krishma, is Afa B'Shem Beit Soya, even if it's cleaned out of Soya. Nevertheless, the makim, the place, the domain, this Beis HaKisei is still has a legal status of a Beis HaKisei. One must be marchik from it, regardless of if it contains Soya or not. And the same halacha regarding a Beis HaMerchotz, we know that one is not allowed to speak words of Torah inside a Beis HaMerchotz. Beis HaMerchotz shamru Afa B'Shem Beit Adam. Even if the Beis HaMerchotz doesn't have any person undressed inside it at the present moment. Ella, rather, apparently we're speaking about a new Beis HaKisei. We can't say that Beis HaKisei was free of tzoya, it wouldn't make a difference. But rather we're speaking of Beis HaKisei that was b'chalti, it was never used, it was simply designated, it was set aside to be used as a Beis HaKisei, and therefore it's not a problem. Says the Gemara, that's not so simple either. Ravina actually had a question regarding a Beis HaKisei that was designated but was not used for a Beis HaKisei. His minoy the Beis HaKisei mao. If one designates an area to be used as a Beis HaKisei, what is the legal status? What is the halacha? Yesh zimun or yein zimun? Does the designation make it into a din of Beis HaKisei? Is it chal? Does it retain the status of Beis HaKisei? Yesh zimun, does the designation have significance? Or yein zimun, or perhaps the designation does not have any significance. So we see that Ravina raised this possibility. He raised this sad, this svara, that even designation can make it into a din Beis HaKisei. So apparently it's not so simple to say that a Beis HaKisei that was chadati wouldn't pose a problem. Says the Gemara, no, there's a difference. Ravina's question was only raised regarding l'meikim alei litzlui b'gavei, to go inside into the interior of the Beis HaKisei, inside the Beis HaKisei that was designated as Beis HaKisei, being that you're standing in the place, on the place that will be used for Beis HaKisei, it was already designated for Beis HaKisei, there's a reason to think that perhaps there's a prohibition. This is the actual place of the Beis HaKisei. So even if it's new, it wasn't actually used, it was merely designated, perhaps Ravina raises the possibility that perhaps it is prohibited. Aval, however, kinegdoi, if he's standing outside that area and he's merely facing it, loy, certainly in that case, merely designating a place as a Beis HaKisei, that wouldn't prohibit one from standing outside of it and davening. Fact is, it's not a Beis HaKisei yet, it wasn't used yet. Therefore, facing it, merely standing kinegdoi, wouldn't pose a problem. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rava, Hani bate kisei de Parsoi, these latrines, these Beis HaKisei of Parsoim, of Persians, Afagav de Isput, even though they contain soya, Kestum and Dami, they're as if they're closed up. And they don't pose a problem, they don't have the status of a Beis HaKisei. Their Beis HaKisei was built in the following manner. They had a deep tunnel, a burrow, which was dug into the ground diagonally, where the tzoya would simply drop in and roll into the depth of the burrow 4 amas away, so there was no tzoya actually in place. It wouldn't remain at the opening of this burrow. Therefore, says Rava, doesn't have a status of a Beis HaKisei. Since the tzoya is always 4 amas away, so it's considered kistum and dami, it's considered as if it's closed off, meaning there's no presence of tzoya in this Beis HaKisei, and it doesn't have the status of a Beis HaKisei. So in conclusion, what is the halacha regarding reciting Krishma keneged Beis HaKisei? So firstly, regarding tzoya that's mi'achrav, that's behind the person, 4 amas is enough. However, if it's milfanov, if it's in front of him, we require Malay Einav. A Beis HaKisei that contains soya certainly has this halacha. A Beis HaKisei that does not contain soya, it was cleaned out of its soya, it still retains its legal status, its halacha as a Beis HaKisei. Regarding a Beis HaKisei chadati, it was merely designated to be used as a Beis HaKisei. So that depends. Inside the Beis HaKisei, there's a shaila, there's a question. Ravina raises a possibility that even then, even in Beis HaKisei chadati, it would be asur. However, this is only a restriction perhaps inside. But outside the Beis HaKisei, connected the Beis HaKisei, facing this Beis HaKisei, would be mutter. It would not have the same status as an ordinary Beis HaKisei. And finally, regarding a Beis HaKisei de Parsoya, the Persians, that is not considered to be a Beis HaKisei at all. Regarding today's modern day Beis HaKisei, there's a discussion in the Poskim, the Chazon Ish has a shaila about it, and there's no absolute conclusion. Generally, the custom today is to be machmir, to be stringent, and to relate to it as a full-fledged Beis HaKisei when we can do so, when one is able to be machmir. However, there's a svara to say that it's not a Beis HaKisei since the waste gets washed away. However, the svara to say, the reason to say that it is a Beis HaKisei, because it is a bit different than those Persian Batei Kisois, since in today's Beis HaKisei, the tzoyah does remain there somewhat until it's washed away, which is a bit different than the Persian Batei Kisois, where the tzoyah would simply roll down immediately into this deep burrow and would disappear out of sight. At least it would be at a distance of 4 amis, which is a different domain. Continues the Mishnah. Zav Shira Keri, a Zav who was Tameh with Tumas Ziva, and then he got an additional Tumah of Tumas Keri, or V'nida Shepolta Shechvazera, a Nida who was Tameh Tumas Nida, and then she expelled Zera and she became Tameh with Tumas Keri. V'ameshamesha Shirasa Nida, an Isha that detachment, she became Tameh Tumas Keri, and then she became a Nida. Tzrichan Tefillah, they require Tefillah to allow them to speak words of Torah, to daven. Now, although their Tefillah, their immersion will not purify them completely, they'll still have their more stringent Tumah. For instance, a Zav, even if he's Toivel, his Tefillah, his immersion won't purify him from his Ziva. Nevertheless, the Tanakama requires a Tefillah in order to allow him to speak Divrei Torah and Divrei Tefillah, although he'll still remain Tameh on account of his additional Tumah. For Rav Yehuda Poita, Rav Yehuda doesn't require, we'll see in the Gemara, the reason. Says the Gemara, Iboilu, the Gemara asks the question as follows. Bal Keri Shira Ziva le Rav Yehuda, Mau. Suppose a Bal Keri, who is Tameh Tumas Keri, then he got an additional Tumah of Tumas Ziva. What will be the halacha according to Rav Yehuda? Mi Pater Rav Yehuda Hasam. Should we say that Rav Yehuda exempts, in the case of the Mishnah, of Zav Shira Bakeri? First he became a Zav and then he became a Bakeri. Why does he exempt in that case? The Mikar Lavrat Filuhu. Since the first Tumah that he got, the Ziva, doesn't subject him to Tefillah, meaning the Takanas Ezra, to prohibit a Balkari from words of Torah, from words of Tefillah, was directed specifically at a Balkari. But any other Tumah doesn't carry that halacha. As explained in the Gemara earlier, since Keri is associated somewhat with lightheadedness, with Kalas Roish, therefore there's a restriction on Balkari to speak words of Torah, words of Tefillah. However, a Zav, as stringent, as Chamar as a Tumah is, nevertheless it doesn't require one to be Toivel to speak words of Torah and words of Tefillah. So in this case, since the initial Tumah of Ziva did not carry this requirement, says Rav Yehuda, even when he gets another Tumah of Tumas Keri, since on account of his first Tumah, he wasn't required to be Toivel, therefore, even when he gets an additional Tumah, it doesn't change things. Since the first Tumah, which was more stringent, didn't require, certainly the second Tumah, which is merely a Tumah Balkari, won't require him to be Toivel. But however, in the reverse case, Aval Balkari Shira Ziva, if initially he became Balkari, which subjects him to Takanas Ezra, he requires Tefillah in order to speak words of Torah. The Mikor Bar Tefillah, the first Tumah that comes, requires him to be Toivel. Therefore, even if he gets an additional Tumah of Tumah Ziva, Mechayev, Rav Yehuda will require him to be Toivel. Perhaps, Loishna makes no difference. Why doesn't it make a difference? Because the point of Rav Yehuda is that any individual that carries with him a Tumah Chamura that does not become alleviated through merely being Toivel, so there's no point in requiring him to be Toivel, since he'll still remain Tameh. So that is the reason for Rav Yehuda's Shita that exempts all these individuals that have a combination of two Tumahs. He exempts them from Tefillah. It has nothing to do with the order, the sequence of how they received the Tumahs. So we have two tztadim, we have two sides in the Gemara. How do we approach, what is the Svar of Rav Yehuda? Is it because of the sequence, or is it simply because he holds that the immersion won't be retire them, so there's no reason to obligate them? Tashma, ha-meshameshes rasa nida tzricha tefillah. We have the last case in the Mishnah where she was a Mishameshes, she became Tumah Tumas Keri, and then she became a Nida. The Tanakama requires Tefillah, Rav Yehuda exempts. Says the Gemara, Mishameshes Rasa Nida. This case is identical to Balkari Shiraziva Adamya. It is similar to a Balkari that became a Zav, meaning first she became a Balkari on account of her Tashmish, and then she becomes a Nida. So first, the first Tumah subjected her to Tvilas Ezra, to the requirement of Takanas Ezra. Nevertheless, because Rabbi Yehuda exempts. Shema Mina. Apparently, the Rabbi Yehuda's svar is that in any case where a person contains a Tumah Chamura which does not become alleviated through being Toivel, Rabbi Yehuda exempts him from Tefillah, and he may speak words of Torah and Tefillah. There's no point in requiring to be Toivel, since this immersion won't be Matayr. Says the Gemara, Tana Reb Chia Behedya, he had a brisa that explicitly says this, Ba'akeri, Shura Aziva. First he was a Balkari and then he became a Zav, Tzarech Tefillah, he requires Tefillah. However, Rav Yehuda, Paiter, Rav Yehuda exempts him, and apparently it has nothing to do with the sequence, nothing to do with the order of events. Anytime a person that has a Tumas Keri with another Tumah Chamura, he exempts him from being Toivel to speak words of Torah and words of Tefillah. Hadran Lach Mishamesi. Continues the Mishnah. Tefillah Shachar Ad Chatzos. The morning davening, Tefillah Shachar, the time to daven, Tefillah Shachar extends until midday at Chatzos. Read Adal choice, up until 4 hours. Now, what is the makar, what is the source for the mitzvah, the obligation to daven? According to the Rabban, it is a Rabbanon, it's a rabbinic obligation. According to the Rambam, it is a mitzvah chiyuv min ha-Torah, because it says, "Va'avadtem es Hashem Elokeichem," and the Chacham darshan, "Eizi avodah shebelev." What is the service of the heart? Daf Yomi Tefillah. This is prayer. Tefillah involves emotional exertion. It's a avodah. It's a service that involves the emotions, the heart. So this is the makar, the source min ha-Torah, for the obligation, for the mitzvah to daven. However, the content, the timing, that was instituted by the Rabbanon. Min ha-Torah, any tefillah, a person davens once a day, which a tefillah that contains the following 3 elements: shvach, praise, then comes requesting tzrachim, bakashat tzrachim, and finally concluded with haidaya, acknowledging, thanking Hashem. Any tefillah that contains these 3 elements is considered a tefillah min ha-Torah. As many times a day as a person decides to daven, with any wording that he chooses, that is the basis, that is the basic chiyuv min ha-Torah. The Rabbanon, the Chachamim, Ezra and his Bezdin, the Anshe Knesset Agdolah, the Great Assembly, they composed the nusach, the text of the tefillah. The Chachamim established the zmanei ha-tefillah, as we will see in our Mishnah. The tefillah ha-shachar extends up until Chatzos. Rabbi Yehuda says up until 4 hours. The Gemara explain the background for these various times. They correspond to the time of the Akrovas Karbonos in the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, the morning tefillah extends up until the time when they will makriv the Tamid Shachar, and so on, as we will see in the Gemara. So again, says the Mishnah, Tefillah Shachar, the morning tefillah at Chatzos extends until midday. Rabbi Yehuda at Adal Shois until 4 hours. Tefillah Mincha, the afternoon tefillah at Ha'era until evening. Rabbi Yehuda at Plaga Mincha until half of the Mincha. The Gemara will explain exactly the meaning of this. Tefillah Erev, the evening davening, Ein Lakva, has no fixed time. You can daven the whole night. V'shal Musafim, the Tefillah Musaf Kol Yom, the entire day. Rabbi Yehuda at Zayin Shois until 7 hours. Says the Gemara, is that so? That Tefillah HaShachar extends until Chatzos V'Amini. We have a brisa that seems to indicate otherwise. Mitzvasa, the mitzvah of reciting Krishma is iman Neitzachama, is with Neitzachama. Kadesh Yismech Gula Tefillah, meaning one is meant to conclude his Krishma at Neitzachama at the beginning of sunrise, so that he can be Samech, he can join the Gula, the bracha following Krishma with Tefillah without interruption, since the Tefillah will begin right then at Neitzachama. By doing so, he will be davening by day, meaning since he delays his Krishma up until that point, that allows him to daven at the beginning of the day and not before the beginning of the day. So apparently the time to daven is right at Netzachama. Says the Gemara, Kitanya Hilu Vasikin. That brisa is speaking about those Vasikin, those special people, those devout people. It is not meant as obligatory as a chiyuv for the general public. The Vasikin, those devout people, those people that cherish the mitzvahs, that sought to fulfill the mitzvahs in the most precise way, and daven at the earliest possible opportunity of an Eitzachama, which was the beginning of this Zman Tefillah. So they would conduct themselves in this manner. They would finish their Krishma right by Netzachama and start right then with Shachris. However, the general public certainly davens much later and up until Chatzos. Says the Gemara, "V'kuli alma at Chatzos v'suloi." Is the deadline for the general public only up until Chatzos and no more? For Amar Rav Mari, Braid Rav Huna, Rav Mari, the son of Rav Huna, said he was Braid Rav Huna, Braid Rav Yirmiyah Abba, the son of Yirmiyah Abba. Amar Rav Yechon, name Rav Yechon. Tov le'ispal arvis, one who erred and missed Tfilas arvis, mispal b'shachar shtayim. He may make up for it by davening twice, Tishman Esreis, in the morning. Shachris, if he misses Shachris, mispal b'mincha shtayim, then he davens twice by mincha, one for the current obligation, one to compensate for Shachris. So apparently, Tfilas Shachris extends past Chatzos. We see that he can daven a Tfilah on account of Tfilah Shachris, even though it's already afternoon. Says the Gemara, you're right, Kuli Yoima, the entire day Matzah B'Azil, a person could daven. However, Ad Chatzos, Yahavle Schar Tfilah B'Zmana. Up until Chatzos, we're given the increased reward, the greater reward for davening Tfilah in its right time. Past Chatzos, Schar Tfilah Yahavle, you're right, we give him a reward for his davening, we give him Schar. But Schar Tfilah B'Zmana Lo Yahavle, we don't give him the greater reward fitting for someone who davens at the right time. Continues the Gemara discussing this halacha of compensating, of being mashlim. If one misses a tefillah, how is he meant to conduct himself? Ibaylu. One person errs and he forgets to daven v'yispal mincha. He didn't get a chance to daven mincha. Maush yispal arvis beis. What is the halacha regarding davening twice by Ma'ariv? Now, when we speak about by the way, we're speaking about one who didn't do it intentionally. It was a it was an error. Whether it was a shaygeg or whether he just couldn't daven for various reasons, as discussed in the halacha. But I'm now speaking about one who intentionally misses his tefillah. So in any case, the Gemara says, Shaila, what about if one misses mincha? Can he make it up with Ma'ariv? Imtim tzeloima, if you'll go and you'll tell me, let's bring a proof from the halacha of Tov le'ispal arvis mispal shachris beis. We know, we just mentioned, that if one misses arvis, he can make it up with shachris. He davens twice shachris. But that is different, says the Gemara. That's not a raya. You can't prove from there to our question. Over there, mishum dechad yoimahu. It's one day. The evening is the beginning of the day. Therefore, if he misses arvis, he can make it up tomorrow morning by shachar, since it is halachically considered to be as one unit one day. But in our case, where he missed mincha, perhaps, tefillah b'makam karbani, since tefillah is bimkam karban, it corresponds to the karbanis. It is instead of bringing a karban, once the day passes, it cancels the karban. You can't make up a missed karban. It's already the next day. As Rashi explains, if one misses a karban musaf in the base of Mikdash, you can't bring a double musaf on the next day. Therefore, perhaps since he missed mincha, now it's already night, it's already the next day, you can't make it up with Ma'ariv. Or perhaps, no. Given that Tzloisa Rachmi, since davening Tzloisa is Rachmi, it's a request for mercy. So the Chacham were more lenient in this regard. And it's different than Karbanos. Chacham will allow him to daven even if it's the next day. Kol Emas, whenever he wants, the boy, whenever he wants, Masi Bazli can daven. So we have two sides of a question here. Perhaps should we say that it is so dependent on the halach of Karbanos, once we miss the day, it's over? Or can we say, the Chacham were lenient since it is a request for mercy, we allow him to do so even if it's the next day. Tashma, come on here. If he skipped mincha, mispal aris beis, he can make it up by davening twice aris. We do not apply this phrase, this concept of you missed the day, you missed the karban. In this case of tefillah, he may compensate even on the following day. We have a question, a brisa, which seems to indicate otherwise. One who is twisted, you can't straighten it out anymore. One who is missing, you can't count it anymore. Says the Gemara, something twisted can be straightened out. That's referring to one who missed suspended krishma of the evening, or krishma shel shachris, an evening tefillah, or he missed a tefillah shel shachris. That is a twisted one who can't straighten himself out anymore. He missed the opportunity. one who is missing can't count anymore, can't be counted anymore. This is referring to a person whose friends gathered together, they counted themselves for a dvar mitzvah, they were going to do a mitzvah, and he did not join them, so he missed an opportunity, can't make it up anymore. Apparently, we see that if one missed a tefillah, you can't make it up. So how can you say that if one misses a tefillah, he merely davens twice the next tefillah? The Brisa says if one misses a tefillah, it's an opportunity, it's a missed opportunity, it can't be made up. No, this halacha of Mubas Leichel Liskain is referring to a case Shabital b'mezid. He willfully suspended, he missed his tefillah intentionally. In that case, he can't make it up anymore. However, in the case where he did it unintentionally b'shaygeg, then we give him the opportunity to make it up in the following tefillah. Amar Rashi Dei Kanami, I'll prove it to you from the words. The Tani Bitel, he cancelled, he willfully missed the tefillah. Like Tani Ta, doesn't say that he erred, that he unintentionally did it. Shmamina, it's obvious that this quotation, this reference to one who was twisted, can't straighten himself out anymore. This is merely speaking about a person who did it b'mezid. He willfully missed his opportunity, therefore he can't make it up anymore. So in conclusion, there's a halacha of being mashlim. If one misses a tefillah b'shageg, he can compensate, he can make up by davening twice Shemon Esrei in the following tefillah. Tosfos points out that aside from the restriction of b'shageg, meaning that it only applies to somebody who missed b'shageg, Tosfos says it only applies to the tefillah hasmucha, to the tefillah immediately following. But if it's already 2 tefillahs ahead, he can't be mashlam anymore. Tosfos also points out that this halacha of hashlama only applies to tefillahs other than musaf. Regarding tefillahs musaf, since it was directly established for the carbon of musaf, so the reasoning, the rationale of the Gemara of rachmi, that tefillah is rachmi is a request for mercy, that doesn't apply to tefillas musaf, which was directly related to the karva musaf. Therefore, one who misses karva musaf, he can't be mashlim by davening twice during the next tefillah. There's one more halacha regarding hashlama, which will be discussed, elaborated on in the coming Gemara, that the order of the tefillahs, one davens twice, right? One is for the obligation, one is to make up. The first one needs to be for the current obligation, for the current chiv. The second one is meant to be for the hashlama, and not in the reverse. We'll see this in the upcoming Gemara. Continues the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanon. Ta'av v'lo yispalel mincha. Be'erev Shabbos, one who erred and he missed mincha and erev Shabbos. Come Shabbos, what is he meant to do now? It says the Brisa mispalel b'l Shabbos time. He davens 2 Shemon Esreis, Friday night. The first one will account for the current obligation, and the second one for the compensation. It will be a makeup for the tefillah that he missed. Although the tefillah that he missed was a weekday tefillah, nevertheless, we follow the current text, and it will be considered to be a compensation, a hashlama, for the weekday mincha that he missed. Continues the Brisa. Tav lo yispal mincha b'Shabbos. If he missed mincha on Shabbos afternoon, similar halacha, mispalel b'motzei Shabbos, shtaim shel chol. Come motzei Shabbos, he davens twice, 2 weekday Shemon Esreis. The first one will be regarded as the current Shemon Esrei, for the current Chiv, the current Ma'ariv, and the second one will count for a Hashlama, for the Mincha that he missed. Ma'avdal b'Rishoina, bein Ma'avdal b'Shniya, regarding Havdalah, we're meant to insert the Tefillah of Havdalah Atachan Antanu into our Motzei Shabbos Shemon Esrei. So he does so only regarding the first Shemon Esrei, which is meant for the current obligation, and not into the second Shemon Esrei, which is meant as a Hashlama, as a compensation for the mincha that he missed. The question is, why is this different than before? We just said a minute ago that we follow the current text. One davens twice Shabbos to compensate for the weekday Shemon Esrei. So why regarding Havdalah is this different, that we differentiate between the first Shemon Esrei, which is meant for the current Chiyuv, and that requires Havdalah, and in the second Shemon Esrei, which is the makeup Havdalah, which is the makeup Shemon Esrei, we don't insert Havdalah. Why is this different? Explain the Mefarshim. Havdalah is different. Havdalah is meant as a declaration of separation between Shabbos and the weekday. So once he does it once, what's the point of doing it again? Therefore, only in the first Shemon Esrei he mentions Havdalah, and not in the second one. Continues the Brisa. However, if this fellow decided to insert Havdalah in the second Shemon Esrei, Not the first one. Shniya also like the second Shemon Esrei which contained Havdalah, that's valid. But Rishayna loy also like the first one that did not contain Havdalah is invalid. He wasn't Yaitse. Explains Rashi. The first Shemon Esrei doesn't count since it was missing Havdalah. Havdalah is Ma'akev. Regarding the second Shemon Esrei, apparently since he includes Havdalah, he decided to include Havdalah in the second Shemon Esrei. It seems like his intention, his kavanah was that Shemon Esrei should count for the current obligation, for the Ma'ariv obligation. Since the makeup Shemon Esrei doesn't require Havdalah. So apparently his intention was to daven that Shemon Esrei for Ma'ariv. Therefore he's still missing a Hashlama. He hasn't made up his mincha yet. And he requires another tefillah to be a compensation Hashlama for the mincha that he missed. Okay, so Lememra, it appears from here that Havdalah is obligatory to the point that if it's missing, it's invalid. Lememra, apparently, the chivin lo yivdil b'kamaisa. He didn't insert Havdalah into the first Shemon Esrei. Command lo yitzami dami. It's as if he hasn't davened. Umadrin needs to go back. We have a brisa which teaches us otherwise. Havdalah is not ma'akev. V'raminu, we learned as follows. Ta, one who errs, v'lo yisker gvurus kishamim b'tchias hamesim. He hasn't mentioned a reference to Hashem's strength and power of bringing down rain in the bracha of tchias hamesim, which is the second bracha of Shemon Esrei, or he missed she'ela b'brachas hashanim, the request for rain in the bracha of Baruch Aleinu. Machzir noisa, he needs to go back. They are obligatory. If they're missing, Shemon Esrei is invalid. It's not yet. However, regarding Havdalah b'chinin hadas, if he missed Havdalah, ein machzir noisa, he doesn't need to go back. It's not me'akev. Why? Because he can always make Havdalah on the cup of wine. Therefore, if it's missing, it doesn't invalidate the tefillah. So we have a stira from this brisa, which tells us that Havdalah is not ma'akev, on the previous brisa, which states very clearly that Havdalah is ma'akev. Says the Gemara Kasha, indeed, it is difficult. We have no resolution. Now it's interesting that, although the Gemara concludes with Kasha, in halacha, in Shulchan Aruch, it is brought down. The halacha brings down the first brisa, which states that if one was mavdil b'shniya and not mavdil b'rishona, he wasn't yaitz, he needs to daven again. So the Mefarshim asks, if the Gemara concludes with kasha, why does the Shulchan Aruch bring it to the halacha? So the Mefarshim say that there is a resolution. The Gemara that concludes with the word kasha doesn't necessarily mean that it's refuted. It means at this point in time the Gemara didn't have a solution. However, there is a teretz to be proposed. Meaning that the reason why in the first brisa, when he was not mavdal b'rishona, however he was mavdal b'shniya, that the brisa says that the first one that was missing Havdalah was lo yosel, it wasn't valid, isn't because it was missing Havdalah. It was because of a different reason. We mentioned earlier that one is meant to daven his two Shemon Esreis in a specific order and specific sequence. The first one is meant to be for the current obligation. The second one is meant to be a Hashlama. Now this fellow who omitted Havdalah in the first Shemon Esrei, apparently he was intending to daven that Shemon Esrei as a Hashlama, as a compensation. Therefore he omitted Havdalah, because the Hashlama doesn't require Havdalah. So since he switched things around, the first one was meant as a compensation, as a Hashlama, therefore it was invalid. He was meant to do the first one as the current obligation, the second one as the Hashlama. He switched things around. He meant the first one to be Hashlama and the second one as the current obligation, therefore he inserted Havdalah only in the second one. Therefore, the first one was like also, not because it was missing Havdalah, but because he switched things around. That is the reason why it was Layal Saleh. Therefore, the Shulchan Aruch brings it as halacha l'maisa. True, if one misses Havdalah on an ordinary Matzah Shabbos, it's valid, he was Yaitse. This is a specific case regarding the halacha of Hashlama. Continues the Gemara. Itmar, we learned as follows. Who established, who enacted our tefillas today, our shachars, our mincha ma'ariv? Where does it come from? We have machlekes. Rabbi Yosef Chanina Amar, tefillas always tiknam. Our avos, our patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they were the ones who established our tefillas. Rabbi Shimon Levi Amar, no, tefillas connected tmidim tiknam. The Chachamim established them to correspond to the tmidim, to the karbanis, tamid to the karbanis in the Beis Hamikdash. Tani kavas Rabbi Yosef Chanina. We have a brayse in support of the first view that the tefillas were established by the avos, and as well we have a brayse of a Tani kavas Rabbi Shimon Levi to support Rabbi Shimon Levi's shita that the tefillas were established to correspond to the various karbanis. Tani kavas Rabbi Yosef Chanina, we have a brayse in support of Rabbi Yosef Chanina. Avram tikkun tefillah shachris. Avram established Tefillah Shachris. Shenemar, as it says, Vayashkem Avram Ba'Boker, he arose in the morning, Ela Mokem Asher Amad Sham, back to the place that he stood there. Says the Gemara, what does Amad mean? Vein Amida La Tefillah. It's referring to davening. Shenemar Vayamod Pinchas Vayifalel. So we see that the term Amida is referring to davening. Avram established the morning Tefillah. Yitzchak Tiken Tefillas Mincha, the afternoon Tefillah. Shenemar Vayetzi Yitzchak L'Shoch Basada L'Fnei Erev. He went out to the field to speak. L'Suach, to speak in the Sada L'Fnei Erev, towards evening. What does the word Sicha mean? Vein Sicha Ela Tefillah. It's referring to Tefillah. Shenemar Tefillah La'ani. A desperate person, Ki Yadeh L'Fnei Hashem Yisvech Sicha, he will spill out his speech to Hashem. So we see that Sicha is referring to Tefillah. That a Ani, in desperation, will pour forth his Tefillah to Hashem. So we see that Sicha, which is Tefillah, was established by Yitzchak. Vayetzi Yitzchak L'Soch V'Asad L'Fnei Erev, the Tefillah, the Sicha of Mincha, established by Yitzchak. Yaakov Tikkun, he established Tefillas Arvish, Nema Vayikdav Amokim Vayilon Sham. He was Paigeya in the place. He slept over there. What does Vayivka mean? Ve'im Pgiya L'Tefillah. It's referring to Tefillah. Shnemar, as it says in the following pasuk, Va'ato, you, Al Tisfal V'adad Hamazeh, don't daven on behalf of this nation. V'al Tisa Ba'adam Rina Tefillah, don't raise on their behalf Rina and Tefillah. Al Tifka be, don't be Paigeya me, don't daven to me. So we see that the term Pegiyah is referring to Tefillah. Yaakov Avinu established Tefillas Aris. So we have a brayso in support of the Shita of Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina, that the Tefillas Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv were established by who? By the Oves. V'tanik v'asir Shubal Levi. We have another brayso in support of the other view. Says the brayso, Ma Amru Tefillas Shachat Chatzois. Why does Shachris have this specific time frame? You may daven only up until Chatzois. Sharei, because Tamid Shachar, the morning Tamid, Kar Vayilchat Chatzois, was offered up until Chatzois, and the Tefillah Shachris was established on account of Tamid Shachar. Therefore, it has the same time frame. Rav Yehuda Omer Adar B'Shois, only up until 4 hours, because he holds Sharei Tamid Shachar Kar Vayilchat Adar B'Shois. He holds that the Tamid Shachar as well was Hukrav up until 4 hours, and thus Tefillah Shachris has that same time frame. Continues the brayso. So what about Mincha? Why did we state that Tefillas Mincha can be daven until evening? Sharei, it's because Tamid Shebin Arbaim, because the afternoon Tamid was offered until evening, and Mincha, which corresponds to the afternoon Tamid, also contains the same time frame. Rabbi Yehuda ad plaga Mincha, until halfway of the period of Mincha period, meaning the halfway point of Mincha, that is the deadline of the afternoon Tefillah of Mincha. We'll soon explain what that means. Why? Because in his opinion, Sharei Tamid Sheben Arbaim Kar V'Hoilchat Plaga Mincha was only offered until Plaga Mincha, until a point called Plaga Mincha, and therefore Tefillah Mincha contains the same deadline. Why regarding Tefillas Erev Ma'ariv? We said it has no limit, can daven the entire night. Why? Because what does Arvis correspond to? It corresponds to the limbs and the fats of the karbanos that were on the mizbeach the entire night. Sharei Evarim, the limbs, Ubdarim and the fat, Shleimus Aklum Be'er, which wasn't consumed by the time night came along. Crave Moyachim Kol Laila, we stayed on the mizbeach and were burnt the entire night, and therefore Arvis, which corresponds to that, also has the same time of the entire night. And finally, why regarding Musaf? May one daven the entire day? Sharei Karban Musaf, Karvay Lach Ad Kol Hayom. Sharei Karban Shal Musaf and Karv Kol Hayom. Musaf was brought the entire day, therefore the Tefillas Musaf has the same time frame. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no, Ad Sheva Shoyz is limited until 7 hours, because in his opinion, Sharei Karban Musaf, Karv Lach Ad Sheva Shoyz. Okay, so this brayso corresponds the various tefillos to the various karbanos. Therefore, Shachris, which corresponded to the Tamid Shal Shachar, so according to the Chachamim, up until Chatzos, according to Rabbi Yehuda, up until 4 hours. Mincha, which corresponded to Tamid Shebein Arbaim, according to the Chachamim, Ado Erev, according to Rabbi Yehuda, until Plag HaMincha. Arvis, which corresponded to the Ivarim and P'darim that will cover the entire night, you could daven the entire night. Musaf, which corresponded to Karba Musaf, according to the Chachamim, the entire day, according to Rabbi Yehuda, until 7 hours. Now, what does Rabbi Yehuda mean when he says Plag HaMincha? So Rashi explains that Mincha is a time frame in which they will makriv the Tamid Sheben Harbayim. It was meant to be Hukrav Bein Harbayim, in between the two darknesses. Rashi explains this to mean from 6.5 hours into the day, when the evening shadows begin forming. That is one erev, one darkness. Between that darkness and the ultimate darkness of evening, Bein Harbayim. So the Korban Tamid Sheben Harbayim was offered somewhere between 6.5 hours and evening. That is Bein Harbayim. On a typical day in the Beis HaMikdash, it was actually offered 9.5 hours into the day. They would shecht it 8.5 hours into the day and only be makriv it at 9.5. They wanted to give the opportunity for the people to bring their various karbanos, and since the karbanos are meant to be brought before the Tamid Sheben Harbayim, the Tamid Sheben Harbayim is meant to be the last karban, therefore they delayed it until 9.5 hours. So the entire time frame from 6.5 hours and on is called Mincha Gedola, the greater Mincha. The time frame from 9.5 hours and on, which was a typical time of Hakrava, is called Mincha Ketana. The Rav Yehuda, when he's referring to Plaga Mincha, I only allow up until halfway point through the Mincha, is referring to Mincha Ketana, meaning the time frame from 9.5 until evening, which is a period of 2.5 hours, you can only go up until Plag, half of that time frame, meaning until 10 3/4 hours. Continues the Gemara. Ve'ezi mincha gedola, what is referred to as the greater mincha, meshei shoyos umechzel malach, from 6.5 hours and on. Ve'ezi mincha ketana, what do we refer to when we say the smaller mincha, the lesser mincha? That is meitesha shoyos umechzel ulamala. That is from 9.5 hours and on. And when a reader makes reference to Plag HaMincha, is referring to the halfway point of Mincha Ketana, meaning 9.5 hours up until evening is 2.5 hours. Half of that is 1.25 hours. You can only daven Mincha up until 1.25 hours past 9.5, which means up until 10 3/4 hours. Iboyu, the Gemara is the question. Rav Yehuda, Plag Mincha Kama Kamar, or Plag Mincha Achrein Kamar? When Rav Yehuda says up until Plag HaMincha, half of the Mincha, does he mean up until the first half of the Mincha, or the second half of the Mincha? Meaning, within Mincha Tana itself, we have two halves. We have the first of the Mincha, half of the Mincha Tana, meaning from 9.5 up until 10 3/4, or is he referring to the second half of the Mincha Tana, meaning the period from 10 3/4 up until evening? So when Rav Yehuda said you can daven up until Plag HaMincha, does he mean up until 9.5 or up until 10 3/4? Says the Gemara Toshma, have a raya from the Brisa. The San Rav Yehuda Omer, Plag HaMincha Achrein Amru, you can daven up until the second half of Mincha. V'hi Yud Aleph Shoyis Chaser V'ya. It is 11 hours minus a quarter, which means up until 10 3/4 hours. So this is obviously the second half of Mincha. So when he says up until Plag HaMincha, means you can daven up until you pass Mincha Tana, up until the halfway point of Mincha Tana, 10 3/4 hours. So in conclusion, we have a brisa which clearly correlates the tefillos with the karbanos. This apparently is a refutation to the view of Rabbi Yosef Chanina, who maintains that who established the tefillos? The avos. It wasn't done in correspondence to the karbanos. Says the Gemara, Amalach Rabbi Yosef Chanina, no, la'olam, in reality, Amalach tefillos always tiknum. The avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they established the tefillos. However, the Rabbanan in the latter generations, Ezra and his great assembly of Anshe Adoila, they supported the tefillos with the karbanos. Meaning that although the avos introduced the concept of karbanos, everybody will agree to that. Even the Shita of Rabbi Shimon Levi, the avos were the first one that introduced initially the concept of tefillos. However, regarding the content of the tefillos, the text, certainly that was established by the Anshe Adoila, Ezra and his Bezdin. Regarding the timing as well, that too was established by Ezra and his Bezdin to correspond to the karbanos. Everybody will agree to that. Even Rabbi Yosef Chanina, that the Chachamim were masmich, they supported the tefillos with the karbanos. If so, what is the difference between the two opinions? The difference is that according to Rabbi Shimon Levi, although the avos introduced the tefillos, however, since it was Koydem Matan Torah, it was before Matan Torah, it doesn't obligate Klal Yisrael. We don't follow that we don't obligate ourselves on account of the avos, but rather on account of the obligation established by the Chachamim, by the Anshe Knesset Agdola. However, according to Rabbi Yosef Hanina, being that the avos established and introduced the tefillas, that was obligatory upon us as well. So in conclusion, certainly the avos initially introduced the concept of tefillah. Everybody agreed to that. In addition, everybody agrees that the content, the composition of the tefillos, of the text, were done by the Anshe Knesset Agdola. In addition, the timing, the various time frames according to tefillos, that too was established by the Anshe Knesset Agdola to correspond to the karbanos. The only machlokes is what is the source of the obligation? Why are we mechuyev to daven? According to Rabbi Yosef Hanina, that's because of the avos. According to Rishon Levi, it was not on account of the avos, but rather on account of the Chachamim in the later generations. But getting back to the Gemara here, where Rabbi Yosef Hanina exceeds, he agrees that indeed the Chachamim supported the tefillos based on the karbanos. And as we explained, at least regarding the timing, the Chachamim corresponded the two things. And he brings a raya. The Gemara brings a raya. If you won't connect tefillah to karbanos at all, tefillah musaf, the Rabbi Yosef Hanina mantikna. Who established musaf? We find Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov established shachos and mechamayim. What happened to musaf? Eli, you must say tefillah is avos tiknam. Indeed, the avos established the tefillahs. But Rabbanan nevertheless, in the later generations, they supported the tefillahs, the details, the timing of the tefillahs based on the karbanos. And since regarding musaf, this wasn't established by the avos yet. So when they saw that there was no tefillah corresponding to musaf, they established musaf on their own. So once again, the avos introduced the concept of tefillah to us. The Chachamim, the later generations, expounded on it, elaborated on it. They composed the nusach, the text. They gave us the time frame. They established musaf. The only machlokes is, what is the source of our obligation today? According to Rabbi Yosef Hanina, is because of the avos. They oblige us as well. According to Rishon Levi, it is obligatory upon us because of the Chachamim, the Anshe Knesset Agdola.